Hello, this is Niswander, and welcome to the NOWMAN Show. And we are live on YouTube. Frantz Pierre. In the early 90s, he attended John Jay College in New York. And John Jay is widely regarded as part of the Ivy League tier of criminal justice schools in the U.S., on par with Harvard and Stanford. He moved to Los Angeles in 2003 to build a blossoming career in the entertainment industry areas of film, music, and fashion. The main issue on Mr. Pierre's mind is, of course, homelessness. He is a regular volunteer at homeless shelters and seeks to make life better for the city's homeless, whose suffering he has witnessed firsthand. He was an occupier at Occupy Wall Street and Occupy Los Angeles. He also started the Occupy Hollywood movement, an extension of OWS. Mr. Pierre is an active member of the cooperative movement. He's also a universal basic income advocate, an artist manager, a fashion designer, and he's dedicated to putting the people of Los Angeles first and emphasizing education, environment, health, and people over profits. Mr. Pierre seeks to bring economic and social justice and innovation to Los Angeles so that more citizens can live better lives. Wow. And that's almost on par, exactly 100% with where I'm coming from. So it's great to have you on the show.
It is my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Oh, awesome. Now, you grew up in Haiti, right?
Yes, born, raised, and grew up there, yes. Wow. And that's where I started activism when I was 15,
wow,
fighting against baby duck.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how I got started in activism.
Wow.
So, and then I moved to the States. I moved to the United States, and I get into, I was an anti-rape activist. I'm still am, to be honest to you. And I used to live in New York. And yeah, then I learned about nonviolence because I didn't know about nonviolence growing up in Haiti. It was about, violent protest, so.
Yeah, it's a whole different mindset.
Yes, yes. So I've learned a lot when I moved to the States.
Yes, yeah. They were totally different culture from what I know that you were used to.
Yes.
Now, first of all, we brought you here mainly to talk about universal basic income, but there's obviously a lot of things to connect to that. So let's get right into it. And we've talked about that subject on this show before, but really haven't gone into more detail, right? So let's start with the very basics here. What is universal basic income?
The very basic explanation is that it's basically there to get people out of poverty, to help people to meet their basic needs, food, shelter, and clothing. That's it. Opponents of basic income, they try to make a lot of big things out of it. So it's basically there to help us, the people who are living in poverty. So with that, we strongly believe that basic income can definitely eliminate poverty. If one defines poverty as those who have a problem financially, cannot afford the basic needs, that's how we define poverty. So in that context, yes, basic income can eliminate poverty.
And that's a great place to start this discussion because, one of the reasons why we got involved in Occupy, as you saw, we have a clip of Tavis Smiley from Occupy L.A., and I brought actually a couple of books here. Noam Chomsky's Occupy, and then this is also a book called The Economic Elite, The People versus the People of the United States of America. It's David DeGraw, who wrote the blogs that got Adbusters and Anonymous's attention, and they created, of course, the 99% movement and Occupy Wall Street. I do have to bring that up, not because it's the 6th anniversary of that event, but it actually often and still does get downplayed, and yet it made an incredible impact in the awareness of people to the economic inequality.
Right.
And it turned it into many places all over the world where people could go to a public space and actually have this discussion. And economists like Richard Wolff have even said, to me, that was the first time that ever happened since the 1930s. So that's a big deal.
It is. And also during the Occupy movement, we also talk about universal basic income and worker cooperatives, we were also addressing these important issues as well. And unfortunately, the Occupy movement faded. So was the talk about universal basic income and worker co-ops. And now we are, it's back, in the media. A lot of people in Silicon Valley, they are leading that conversation about universal basic income. So
yeah, as a matter of fact, I have seen various clips. I mean, people from all across different perspectives and political ideologies. I mean, I've seen, well, I haven't seen it on the far right, but I've seen Robert Reich talk about it. I've seen Stephen Hawking, Bill Gates, Elon Musk mention it. Mark Zuckerberg mentioned it, and of course, one of my favorites, Yanis Varoufakis, former finance minister of Greece. They've all brought it up in talks.
Yeah, and I have a feeling it is because the left is talking about it, so the right, But I have a feeling a lot of right people support it. Of course, we have Nixon.
Right, he did. That's right. That's right. Nixon discussed it. That's right.
And in fact, if it was up to Nixon, we will have a version of basic income at this time. It was because of the left, that they knock it down, because they said, Nixon was not offering enough money, and then they wanted to be the left wanted to be the one to do it.
Yes, that's true.
So that's what destroyed during the Nixon time.
Now, did Nixon get that idea from Dr. Martin Luther King? Because he talked about it.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. And but we know his version was more like the negative income tax. That was basically which is great, But I'm pushing for universal basic income.
Yeah.
Which is. So the negative income is a form of basic income. So they have different versions. That's why.
So there's different versions. Try to break that down for us, because so we understand. Because most people are starting to hear about UBI now. Using the acronym Universal Basic Income, but there's different types, right? Can you explain that?
Yeah, there are different types, and then even within these types, it's divided per like. I have a belief, for universal basic income. This is the one I support, where everyone will receive it, regardless, children, from children to all the way to elderly people, they will receive it. Even within that group, there are people who said, okay, we want an UBI plus. What that means is that we will keep the welfare programs the way it is.
Yes.
So we will put universal basic income in addition to that. I do not support that. I support we should food stamp, for instance. I believe we should get rid of food stamp. Social security, I believe we should keep social security. But there are some other groups, they believe that we should get rid of social security. So it's different. So it's like when we're talking about universal basic income, everyone have to explain, where they stand on certain aspect of universal basic income.
Well,
so
now
that
that
is
they
very
call
important.
food stamps now, they don't really call them food stamps. They call it WIC or SNAP or
something.
There's different types of programs for different types of people. So what you're saying basically is there's advocacy to not get rid of those, and there's advocacy to get rid of certain programs, and there's advocacy to keep everything and add universal basic income to that.
Yes,
right?
Yes. So it's basically, each person, you have to basically ask them, okay, where do you stand on certain issue?
And now are they proposing different amounts different monthly amounts, no cap, or no, like for instance, there's a pilot program in Finland right now that's working pretty well.
Very well.
It seems to me that the only people that, the articles that I've read, right, it's working very well for the entrepreneur types, the unemployed, students looking for work, still in school, whatever. And it seems like the people complaining about it, look to me, they didn't come out and say it exactly, but it looks to me like it's capitalists that are complaining about it.
But when it comes to like experiment and pilots, some people they like judging them pretty hard. It's a pilot.
Yes.
It's give them room. If they're talking about implementation,
Right.
You know, then that's where we're like, okay, is it a basic income? You know, just because they're giving unemployment individual a certain money does not mean that it is basic income, to be honest to you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so if it's a pilot experiment, I don't think they should judge them pretty harsh. You know, let's see the implementation of it. You know, so Finland, I think the way they're doing is great, and it is already reducing stress. It's working already. You know, and
Yes.
basically, each and every pilot that has been done, an experiment, it has proven to work.
Yes.
You know, it changed people's life for the better.
That's right.
You know, and these are the studies. They are there for anyone. They can go and look at them and do their own research, and then they will come up with the same conclusion.
That's right.
You know, and you will find that opponents of universal basic income, they will not go. When they are talking about against basic income, they don't bring up pilots and experiments.
Yes.
They stay away from that. You know, but then you know, when they do that, I question their motive.
Yes.
When they you know fail to mention pilots and experiments. Yeah. So basically, Finland is a good example, and it is working.
It is working, and I mean, I know artists love it, so I'm sure that we would love it, right?
Definitely, definitely. And also, one thing most people don't know about universal basic income, it was implemented before. It's not just the pilots; it was implemented, and
where at?
It's the city of Medina in Saudi Arabia.
Really?
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
We're talking about like
when was that?
Right after the death of Prophet Muhammad. His successor Abu Bakr. He was the first one who implemented universal basic income.
Really?
Yes, we're talking about 632 AD, but he was the first Muslim caliph. Unfortunately, he lasted only 2 years. He passed away, but the program remained. The implementation lasted for about almost 100 years, 80 something years.
Really?
Yes. So the reason why it ended, there were two reasons actually. One, there are some government issues, you know, and then they couldn't find anyone in the city of Medina who needed a basic income.
Really?
So it was truly a city with no poverty. So that's how it ended.
So it was actually a program that maybe lifted anybody that was in poverty, lifted them out of poverty.
Out of poverty.
So then it didn't really serve a purpose anymore. See,
right,
if people would think about that actually accomplishes something on that level, then maybe they would consider it. Thank you for sharing that, because we actually have historical context to put that in.
Yes,
right?
it's been a long, long time ago.
Well, still, I mean, some things are basic. When you're talking about basic necessities, I mean, you know, back at that time, just like today, people need to eat.
Yes.
Right? You need a shelter. You need basic necessities. Those very basic fundamental things don't change. The ways they're outpictured or created.
Good point.
It's the same thing. So for those people that are skeptical or just have a lot of fear, a lot of questions, I mean, you know, there's critics, right? As you know.
Yes.
And there are critics that will say things like, you know, well, it's just going to make a bunch of people lazy, right? If you give them free money, right? There's that assumption. But there's also this other assumption from other groups. They're saying like, well, we're going to have to redo the government before we implement anything like that, because the privatization, the private companies, they're going to want to get their hands all over that, and it's not going to work, and that's part of the plan, so they can make profits and make it look efficient, so that make it more difficult to implement it again. So and I understand both of these concerns, but how do you address those kinds of questions if people ask you that?
The critics, they will say they'll make people lazy. But if you ask them, okay, if you receive $1,500 a month, will you stop working? They will tell you no. They will continue to work.
Right.
But when you ask them about the other guy, they say the other guy will stop working. So it's never them. It's always the other guy.
Right. That's right. So it's an ego thing.
Right. They're probably thinking about their uncle or somebody in the family. Sure. I don't think people are inherently lazy.
Right.
Just because if if they don't want to do something, they're not going to do it. But if they receive the money, if they got $1,500 a month, that would motivate them to do the things that they love to do. You know, so if you allow someone to do something they love to do, they're not going to be lazy. They're going to be motivated. You know, just like let's look at food stamp. They said, you know, food stamp makes people lazy and things like. It's not enough. You know, well, the cash part, it's not enough money to motivate someone to go out there and do something, even if they want to open a business.
That's right.
Whereas,
it's got to be significant.
It got to be significant. So
yeah.
that is very important when it comes to.
And does that get based on, like, you know, because the cost of living is different, like let's say in Los Angeles than it would be in Des Moines, Iowa, or Lincoln, Nebraska? Would they calculate it based on the regionalized or the localized cost of living? Is that?
I hope they do, because
yeah.
some you know supporter of basic income, they said, you know, nationwide they want to give $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
But $1,000 a month is not going to cut it in LA.
No.
You know, maybe somewhere like you're talking about deep in this, somewhere in the south.
Right.
You know, it will work, but not in LA.
I totally agree.
Yes, and for in LA, I believe, you know, between $1,300 and $1,500 will work for us in Los Angeles. So in that context, I believe, okay, if the country want to give people $1,000, the state and the city should work together, you know, and give people the additional $300 or $500. You know, I think that way it will work.
And the benefits to the economy. I mean, we already see that, you know, with what social safety nets we have left, that that people actually, when they get money, they spend it.
Yes.
Even if they're not working. But there's also this other thing too of the creation of wealth. I mean, we're all working in some capacity or another. If you don't have a paycheck, that doesn't mean you're not working. And that doesn't mean that you're not productive, you know, and some of us know from experience that that's true. And if you want to ask us about it, we will gladly talk to you about it off camera.
Another good thing, since you mentioned work, another good thing about basic income, it helps us to redefine work. What is work?
Yes.
You know,
what actually is work?
You know, so it helps us to redefine that, because you have people, they volunteer the time, you know, to do things. You know,
totally.
It's not about money. You know, these people need to get paid as well.
That's right. You know? Why should people volunteer for free? That kind of stuff is becoming a problem in this country, to be honest with you, because it's showing that many people can be productive, but they're not getting paid for it.
Right.
And that's another conversation that we should really have.
Yeah, and if they're receiving the basic income, that will motivate them more to even do more volunteer work.
That's right.
You know, so
that would actually motivate them to want to, and then they could follow their passions.
Yes.
And then that's when you follow your passions, then that's when you really are productive and you contribute to your community.
And another thing, basic income opponents, when they're talking about people being lazy, they're not looking at the people who are volunteering doing the work.
That's right.
So they ignore these people. So just to, you know, it's like, here's the thing about universal basic income. Universal basic income understands that there'll be some people who probably will sit at home doing nothing, you know, but basic income doesn't see these people. It sees, you know, it sees the good in people. You know, there's people who are going to volunteer to do work, the people who are going to use the money to open businesses, you know, and according to a study, when we're looking at domestic violence, according to the study, most people stay in abusive relationship because of a lack of income.
Right.
So if they receive a basic income, I'm not saying that it's going to help each and every one of them, but even if it helps 1%, get 1% of victims out of a relationship, you know, that's success.
That's right.
So that's another reason I support universal basic income.
And let's kind of wrap this up, start to wrap it up anyway, because I want to talk to you a little bit about worker cooperatives.
Yes.
And now, have you ever heard of the book called Utopia for Realists?
Yes. Yeah. By Roger, yes.
Yeah, by Rutger Bregman?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
He's another advocate for this, and
yes.
You know, and actually, you can go online and see a great interview he did with a former guest on our show, Matt Orfala. And that's another way to get some more information about this subject matter.
And then he did a TED Talk as well.
He did a TED Talk as well.
Yes, that was a great one, and I encourage people to watch it.
Yeah, and he talks about BS jobs, and there are a lot of them out there, and there are a lot of also jobs that are as during the Obama administration. There were 94% of the jobs were part-time. They were temporary gigs or low-wage full-time gigs with little or no benefits. 94%, and that's to say, okay, we created 50 million jobs. Yeah, but you have to look at more statistics.
What kind of jobs are we talking about?
And worker cooperatives is another way too. It's not just a business model, but it's also a movement. Because it challenges the way you look at the economy. Now we've talked about that a lot on this show, and we'll continue to do so because some of the production involved in this show involves a worker cooperative.
Yeah, and then just like universal basic income, worker co-ops is nothing new. In fact, Benjamin Franklin, the founding father, he had a worker co-ops. Yes, it was an insurance company.
Really?
I believe, yeah. I think it is in Pennsylvania somewhere. The plate of the business still exists.
Really?
So it's been there for a while.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It is, and that is something, of course, I support. And in fact, I intend to start a lot of worker co-ops businesses.
You have started one, haven't you?
Yes, I started one. It's for housing cleaning, because I started with that one because it requires less capital.
Oh, yes, that's true.
To get started.
Are you modeling it after the one in Brooklyn?
Yes, they have one in Oakland, in San Francisco, and in New York, and so we are the first one in Los Angeles. So it's eco-friendly house cleaning.
Fantastic.
So that's where we should be heading. Because it creates wealth. It's good for our community, and we should define worker co-ops.
Yes.
So basically, it has the two main characteristics. Is that the first one, employees own the business. And they share the profits.
That's right.
So that's
the surplus.
Or the surplus, like we like to call it within the co-op movement. We prefer to say surplus than profits. Correct.
Right. To distinguish it from a capitalist organization, which is part of the movement, the political part.
Yes, definitely. So it's. When they own the business, they have an incentive to do better work.
That's right.
That's right. And then if we're talking about worker co-ops, we have to talk about Mondragon.
Mondragon in Spain. Yes.
In Spain. Yeah. So they did a very good jobs, and they are the models that we want to follow.
And they have, last I saw, about 75,000 worker owners now in the Mondragon Cooperative Corporation.
Yes. They have over 100,000, but 75,000 of them are worker-owned. Are worker owners.
In 2017.
Yes.
Because they did get affected by the economic downturn, unfortunately.
That is true.
The flagship Fagor, I think it is, which is an appliance factory. They cut back, and then they apparently didn't survive the economic crisis, which, by the way, folks, for most of us is still going on. We didn't get recovery from 2008. Hello. And so brace yourself, because another one's probably on its way, another downturn. So,
they did have a downturn, but also if you're looking at like Spain, it's I think I forgot the number, but Mondragon was very, very less than other companies.
They stayed. They're still like the 7th largest corporation, I think, in Spain.
Yes.
So, and obviously, as a worker owner, I know that feeling. Arete Media Productions was official June the 1st, 2017.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We're media production and education company. That's where our focus is. So,
awesome.
The NOWMAN Show is a part of that, and I'm proud to say it's great to work with a fun group of guys. The intro of this show was our first project together, so the new intro, I should say, starting here in season 3. So it's a lot of fun. It's relationship based. We put each other first, and money is second.
Yes.
Or even less than that. It's people first, always, and it's also a mindset. So in a capitalist structure, it doesn't work like that. As a matter of fact, the stockholders are more important than the customers, let alone the employees. So,
and those who support to put people before profits, they should definitely support worker co-ops, because that's what worker co-ops do. Definitely put people before profits. That's what we're fighting for. you know, we should definitely go for it. You know, that's a way to destroy capitalism.
That's right, which we will get into. We're going to do a panel discussion as well. So tell us, let's wrap this up. Tell us where people can learn more about the basic income, and let's start with that first.
Sure. Any Google search can get you to basic income. There's a Reddit page for basic income, and we have a group in Los Angeles, Basic Income Los Angeles.
Now, how can they find you?
They can go to basicincomela.com. That's one. And for worker co-ops, they can look at our business. For it's eco-friendly housecleaning L.A.com.
Excellent. We'll put those links in the closing credits as well. So, Frantz, thank you so much for being on the NOWMAN Show. Let's continue this conversation. And,
definitely.
This is Niswander. I'm here with Frantz Pierre from Basic Income L.A. and much, much more. And you're watching the NOWMAN Show. We're live on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Until next time, be present always.
The past is gone, the future is yet to come, it's now, right now. The present is here, the future is near, but it's right now. You know, being with you makes the party complete. So keep the body moving and show your happy feet. At the end of the night, when all is said and done, I wanna know I did the right thing and had a